The Awakening Code. Introduction. Reality is not what it seems. What we see is a construct molded by our views, training, and constrained senses. While ancient wisdom holds that our consciousness plays a basic part in determining life, science shows that the mind actively filters and interprets the universe. I thus decide to raise awareness, challenge imposed constraints, and welcome the deeper truth behind illusion. Since the dawn of civilization, humanity has struggled with the same fundamental questions. Who are we? What is reality? And why do we exist? Yet for centuries, powerful forces have shaped our perception, conditioning us to see only what we are allowed to see, to believe only what we are told is real. But what if I told you that the world you experience is not the full picture? That reality, as we know it, is merely a fragmented illusion, an elaborate projection of the mind. Ancient mystics whispered about it, quantum physicists stumbled upon it, and those who control the flow of information have desperately tried to keep it hidden. But the truth is rising to the surface. Science now confirms what the spiritual masters of old have always known. Reality bends to consciousness. Your thoughts shape your world. Your beliefs define your limits. And the war being waged is not fought with weapons, it is fought in your mind. In this audiobook, we will embark on a journey beyond the veil of perception, where spirituality and quantum physics collide. We will uncover lost knowledge, hidden teachings, and the forbidden truths that challenge everything we think we know. If you find this audiobook valuable, we would be delighted if you gave it a like and subscribed to receive more content like this. Chapter 1. The Programmed Reality and the Power of the Unconscious. From the moment you opened your eyes to this world, an unseen force has been shaping your reality. You did not choose your first beliefs, your fears, or the limits imposed upon your perception. They were programmed into you, woven into the very fabric of your subconscious, dictating what you see, what you believe, and what you accept as possible. But what if I told you that this reality, the one you so firmly trust, is nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion? A mirage built not from solid truths, but from the silent whispers of your unconscious mind. The ancient sages and modern psychologists alike have spoken of this phenomenon. The great Carl Jung once warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This statement is not merely philosophical. It is a revelation of how the hidden layers of our psyche govern our every thought, action, and decision. Like an iceberg floating in the ocean, only a small fraction of our mind is visible and conscious, while the vast majority remains submerged beneath the surface, shaping our destiny in ways we rarely recognize. It's common to assume that the five senses, sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, are trustworthy instruments for observing the world. But what if they are jail bars instead of windows? What if, instead of exposing the truth, they restrict us? Long ago, this trick was hinted at in the ancient Hermetic texts. What is visible is but a shadow of the invisible. We believe that the universe is solid and that matter is tangible, yet quantum physics has shown us that reality is not solid at all on the most fundamental level. It is a field of possibilities that vibrates and only takes shape when it is observed. This implies that reality is highly subjective and is shaped by our own perceptions rather than by an unchanging truth. However, who put these filters in place? This reality was programmed by whom? We are conditioned to view the world in a certain manner from an early age. We receive our views as indisputable truths from our parents, educators, society, and culture. However, these realities differ between cultures and historical periods. Wouldn't reality be the same for everyone if it were genuinely objective? The disturbing truth is that our perspective is only an interpretation of reality, shaped by the subconscious training we have unwittingly accepted. What mystics have long recognized has been validated by contemporary neuroscience. According to studies, the subconscious mind controls more than 95% of our thoughts and behaviors. We are essentially living by scripts that were written long before we were old enough to challenge them, operating on autopilot. And as a result, we are stuck, unable to escape, recreating the same patterns and reacting to life in predictable ways. The mind immediately dismisses everything that contradicts our pre-programmed notions as illogical or impossible. This is not a coincidence. Rather, it is a defense mechanism, a system that keeps us in the familiar and preserves the illusion. But what if we could break free? What if we could reprogram our subconscious, rewriting the script that dictates our reality? The ancient spiritual traditions have long spoken of this process, often referring to it as enlightenment, awakening, or self-realization. Plato's famous allegory of the cave describes prisoners chained in darkness, mistaking shadows for reality, until one dares to step outside and see the world as it truly is. This story is more than metaphor. It is a reflection of our condition, a reminder that we are living inside a mental construct, mistaking the program for truth. The first step to breaking free is awareness. To awaken, we must first recognize that we are asleep. This requires questioning everything we have been taught, dismantling the invisible walls that shape our perception. The second step is reprogramming. If our subconscious mind governs our reality, then by changing its contents, we change the world we experience. Ancient mystics and modern neuroscientists agree, repetition, deep meditation, and emotional intensity are the keys to rewriting the subconscious. It is no accident that the efficacy of mantras, affirmations, and visualization is emphasized in religious writings, spiritual practices, and even contemporary self-help methods. These are instruments for entering the subconscious and establishing new beliefs that alter perception. They are not merely rituals. As above, so below. As within, so without. The ultimate truth is shown by this age-old axiom. Our inner world is simply reflected in our outside environment. We must first change our thoughts if we want to change our reality. But there is a deeper revelation waiting beyond this realization. If reality is programmable, who or what is the original programmer? Are we merely subjects in a grand illusion created by forces beyond our understanding? Or are we, in truth, the architects of our own existence? Mystical traditions and quantum physics suggest the latter, that consciousness itself is the source, the creator, the observer shaping the universe into form. The war for your mind is not fought on battlefields. It is waged in the unseen, in the depths of your thoughts, in the beliefs you accept without question. The greatest illusion is the belief that you are powerless, that you are merely a product of the world around you. In truth, the world is a product of your perception. Reality is not fixed. It is fluid, malleable, and deeply responsive to the mind that observes it. The question is, will you remain bound by the invisible chains of subconscious programming, or will you awaken to the truth that has been hidden in plain sight? The choice is yours. The prison door is open, but only you can walk through it. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Reality. Are we living in a simulation? Imagine just for a moment that everything around you, the chair you sit on, the device in your hands, the walls that enclose you, is not as real as it seems. What if the solidity of objects, the linear passage of time, and even the certainty of your own identity were mere projections, shadows on the wall of a grand cosmic illusion? The ancient philosophers whispered of this possibility, and today quantum physics has begun to echo their revelations. The question is no longer whether reality is an illusion, but rather, who or what is crafting it? For centuries, mystics and sages have spoken of Maya, the great cosmic illusion described in ancient Hindu texts. According to this teaching, the physical world is nothing more than a veil, a dream spun by consciousness itself. The real essence of existence lies hidden behind this facade, inaccessible to those who mistake the illusion for the truth. But modern science, once dismissive of such mystical notions, is now uncovering evidence that shakes the very foundation of what we call reality. Quantum physics reveals that at the smallest level of existence, there is no solid matter, only vibrating energy fields, particles that exist in a state of probability until observed. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrated this unsettling truth. When unobserved, particles behave as mere waves of potential, but the moment they are measured, they choose a state, and become real. What does this mean for our understanding of the world? It suggests that reality is not fixed, but fluid, malleable, dependent upon the observer. If observation collapses reality into form, then what we perceive as real is simply an outcome of consciousness interacting with the void. But if reality behaves like a program running in response to observation, then a chilling thought arises. Could we be living in something akin to a simulation? The idea, once relegated to science fiction, is now being seriously considered by some of the world's most brilliant minds. Physicist Nick Bostrom proposed the simulation hypothesis, arguing that if civilizations ever reach a level where they can create fully immersive virtual worlds indistinguishable from reality, then the probability that we ourselves are in such a simulation increases exponentially. In other words, if it is possible to create a simulated reality, it is likely that we are already inside one. This concept is not new. The allegory of Plato's cave tells of prisoners chained in darkness, seeing only shadows projected on a wall, mistaking them for reality. But what if we, too, are prisoners, except our chains are invisible, forged by our own minds? Every assumption we make about the world, every law of physics we accept without question, could be mere parameters of a construct so advanced that we cannot see beyond it. If our senses deceive us, if the mind can be programmed to believe in illusions, then how can we ever be sure of what is truly real? Even our perception of time may be nothing more than a carefully coded function of the simulation. Mystical traditions and cutting-edge physics converge on the idea that time does not flow as we experience it, but rather exists all at once, past, present, and future, coexisting in a single eternal moment. Yet, we are conditioned to perceive it sequentially, as if we are being led along a predetermined path, much like a character in a vast, intricate game. The ancient Hermetic texts spoke of this mystery, as above, so below, as within, so without. If this reality is indeed a construct, then the blueprint of the universe might be embedded within our very consciousness. But if we are in a simulation, then who or what created it? Could it be an advanced intelligence, an entity beyond human comprehension, orchestrating this grand illusion for reasons unknown? Some theories suggest that our reality could be a cosmic experiment, a training ground for consciousness itself to evolve. Others believe that we are divine creators who have simply forgotten our true nature, trapped in an endless cycle of reincarnation within a world of our own making. If this is the case, then the true purpose of life is not survival but awakening, to see beyond the illusion and remember who we really are. Yet the most troubling question remains: if this is a simulation, can we escape it? If our reality is coded, can the program be rewritten? Ancient spiritual traditions point to the possibility of transcendence, of achieving a state where one no longer perceives the illusion as real, but instead interacts with it as a conscious creator. Those who have reached this state, mystics, shamans, enlightened beings, describe a profound shift in perception where the rigid structures of reality dissolve and the infinite nature of existence is revealed. In the end, the nature of our world may not be something we can ever fully prove or disprove, but one truth remains: our perception defines our experience. If we accept reality as an unchangeable construct, we remain prisoners of its design. But if we dare to question, if we push beyond the boundaries of what we have been taught, we may find that reality is far stranger and more wondrous than we ever imagined. The illusion is not the enemy, it is the gateway. The question is, will you walk through it? Chapter 3. The Universal Consciousness, Beyond the Illusion of Separation. From the moment we are born, we are taught that we are separate beings, individual minds, housed within individual bodies, navigating a vast and indifferent universe. We are given names, identities, and histories that define us, drawing invisible borders between ourselves and everything else. But what if this fundamental belief is nothing more than another layer of the illusion? What if the idea that you are a singular, independent entity is the greatest deception of all? For millennia, sages, mystics, and philosophers have whispered a truth so radical, so transformative, that it threatens to unravel the very fabric of how we perceive existence. The truth is this: you are not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through a temporary form. Your consciousness is not confined to your brain or your body. It is part of something infinitely greater, a vast ocean of awareness in which all things are connected. The illusion of separation is the veil that keeps humanity asleep, blind to its own divine nature. Science, once reluctant to entertain such notions, is now beginning to catch up with what ancient wisdom has long proclaimed. Quantum physics suggests that all things are interconnected at a fundamental level. The famous phenomenon of quantum entanglement reveals that two particles, once connected, remain inexplicably linked across vast distances, reacting to each other instantaneously, as if time and space do not exist between them. This eerie connection defies classical physics and hints at a reality where everything is intertwined within a single unified field. What does it say about us if particles may be connected in ways that transcend time and space? Is it possible that our brains, our souls, are interconnected in ways we do not yet completely understand? Brahman, the ultimate reality that permeates everything, was mentioned in India's ancient Vedic writings. They taught that the ego, or Atman, is a reflection of Brahman rather than something distinct from it. They claimed that to awaken is to recognize that you are the ocean itself, not just one drop in the ocean. But if we are all connected, why do we feel so alone? Why do we move through life convinced that we are isolated islands, cut off from one another, struggling to find meaning in an indifferent cosmos? The answer lies in the mind. The ego, the part of our consciousness that identifies with individuality, acts as a filter, blocking out the larger truth. It constructs a reality where I and you are separate, where the world is something out there apart from us. But this is a falsehood, a trick of perception. The moment we quiet the ego, the moment we turn inward and silence the endless noise of conditioned thought, we begin to feel the deeper connection that has always been there. Mystical traditions have described this experience for centuries. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." The Hermetic texts speak of the all, a boundless intelligence that flows through all things, creating and sustaining reality itself. And now, modern studies in consciousness are revealing something astonishing. The brain may not create awareness, but rather receive and filter it, much like a radio picking up a signal. This suggests that consciousness is not produced by the body, but exists independently, existing beyond the limitations of physical form. What then does this mean for death? If consciousness is not confined to the body, then the end of the body cannot be the end of awareness. The great mystery of what lies beyond life begins to unravel. Could it be that what we call death is nothing more than a transition, a shedding of the physical vessel while the consciousness that animates it simply continues? Many who have had near-death experiences report the same phenomena, a sense of expansion, of merging with an infinite presence, of realizing that they were never truly separate to begin with. And if we are eternal, if we are aspects of a universal mind playing the game of individuality, then what is the purpose of existence? Why live a life bound by illusions when the truth is so much grander? The answer lies in experience. The infinite, in all its vastness, cannot know itself without contrast. Just as light is meaningless without darkness, and sound has no value without silence, unity can only be fully realized after experiencing separation. The journey of being human, the struggles, the joys, the losses, the triumphs, is the universe discovering itself, learning through the temporary lens of a single perspective. But we are not meant to stay lost in the illusion forever. There comes a moment when the dreamer must wake up. The ancient spiritual texts tell us that enlightenment is not about attaining something new, but remembering what was always there. To awaken is to peel away the illusion of separateness and recognize that we have never been apart from the source. It is to see beyond the veil, to understand that every face we meet, every tree we pass, every star we gaze upon, is not something external. It is all us playing in the grand cosmic dance, The war for your mind is, at its core, a war against this knowledge. Those who would keep humanity in ignorance thrive on division. Separation breeds control. When people see themselves as isolated, they are easier to manipulate, easier to make fearful, easier to turn against one another. But the moment we awaken to the truth of our interconnectedness, fear dissolves, conflict loses its meaning, and the illusion begins to crumble. So ask yourself, what if you are not just a single fleeting existence? What if the thoughts in your mind are not just yours, but part of something vast and eternal? What if every moment of your life has been leading you not further into the illusion, but closer to the awakening? The boundaries of the self are dissolving. The dream is ending. The question is, will you remember before it's too late? Chapter 4. The duality of existence and the consciousness that transcends it. Since the beginning of time, humanity has been trapped in a world of opposites. Light and darkness, good and evil, joy and suffering, creation and destruction. Existence seems to be an eternal battlefield where one force struggles against another. We are conditioned to believe in this conflict, to see reality as a war between two opposing sides. But what if this war is an illusion? What if duality is not a prison but a key, a doorway to something far greater? In every ancient spiritual tradition, there exists a recognition of this duality. The yin and yang of Taoism, the light and shadow of Hermeticism, the sacred balance between the divine masculine and feminine in esoteric traditions, all point to the same truth. Opposites are not separate. They are not enemies, but reflections of one another. The world we see is a dance of polarities, and the moment we stop resisting it, the moment we learn to see beyond the illusion of separation, we begin to glimpse the deeper reality that lies beneath. The illusion of duality is deeply embedded in our perception. We are taught to categorize, to label, to judge. This is right, that is wrong, this is beautiful, that is ugly. But these are constructs of the mind, not absolute truths. What is seen as evil by one culture may be revered as sacred in another. What is painful today may be understood as a blessing tomorrow. Even within ourselves, we struggle between different aspects of our being, the logical mind versus the intuitive heart, desire versus discipline, fear versus love. But are these forces truly at odds, or are they two sides of the same coin? Science, too, has begun to unravel the nature of this paradox. The principles of quantum physics reveal that particles can exist in multiple states at once, embodying both possibilities until observed. This is the essence of duality, a state of potential that only collapses into a single outcome when defined by perception. In the same way, our experiences are shaped by the way we choose to see them. The suffering we resist, the darkness we fear, all contain within them the seeds of enlightenment. Without struggle, there is no growth. Without contrast, there is no awareness. The ancient alchemists knew this truth well. They sought to transmute lead into gold, not simply as a literal process, but as a metaphor for the transformation of the soul. Lead represents the dense unconscious self, trapped in fear, in ignorance, in limitation. Gold is the awakened self, the one who has seen beyond duality and understands that both light and shadow are necessary for wholeness. The journey of the soul is not to destroy the darkness, but to integrate it, to find balance, to embrace the totality of existence rather than being enslaved by one side of it. But society does not teach this. It thrives on division, on conflict. The illusion of duality is used as a weapon. Nations against nations, ideologies against ideologies, people against themselves. The more we believe in separation, the easier we are to control. A divided mind is a powerless mind. A mind that sees only one side of the coin is a mind that can be manipulated, that can be fed fear, that can be kept in a state of constant struggle. But what happens when we wake up? What happens when we begin to see that duality is not a war but a mirror? The great mystics of history understood this. They spoke of unity, of the dissolution of all boundaries. They did not see light and darkness as enemies, but as partners in creation. The Gospel of Thomas, one of the most mysterious and powerful of the lost texts, contains a hidden teaching. When you make the two one, and when you make the inner as the outer, and the outer as the inner, and the above as the below, then shall you enter the kingdom. This is not a kingdom in the afterlife, but a state of awareness, a realization that heaven and hell, good and evil, self and other, are all part of the same great oneness. This is the secret that has been hidden for centuries, that the war is not between light and dark. The war is within us, the war of perception, the war of illusion. We are taught to reject parts of ourselves, to fear our own shadows, to suppress what is uncomfortable. But the only way to transcend duality is to see it for what it is. A construct, a training ground for the evolution of consciousness. The key to liberation is integration, to recognize that every experience, no matter how painful, is a teacher, that suffering is not a curse but an invitation to awaken, that the darkness we run from holds the very wisdom we need to transcend it. The greatest spiritual masters were not those who denied suffering, but those who walked through it with open eyes, understanding that there is no true separation between what we resist and what we seek. Chapter 5. The War for Your Attention. Who controls your mind? In a world drowning in noise, the most valuable resource is not gold, oil, or technology. It is your attention. Every second of every day, unseen forces fight for control over it, seeking to direct your focus, shape your thoughts, and dictate what you perceive as reality. Most people do not realize they are engaged in this battle. They move through their lives unaware that their very consciousness is being hijacked, their mental energy harvested, their perception manipulated by forces they do not see. But ignorance does not protect them. It only makes them easier to control. Look around you. Screens glow in every direction, calling out with endless streams of images, headlines, and notifications. Social media algorithms are designed to keep you scrolling, feeding your mind with information carefully curated to maintain your engagement, to keep you hooked. Every platform, every app, every piece of digital content is part of a system designed to capture and exploit your attention. And it is not random. The more distracted you are, the less you question. The more fragmented your focus, the easier you are to influence. This is not a new war, it is as old as civilization itself. Religions, governments, and ruling powers have always sought to control perception, to dictate what is true and what is false. But never before has the battle been so sophisticated. Never before have there been tools capable of reaching into the depths of the human psyche, reshaping thoughts in real time. The great philosopher Manly P. Hall once warned that the soul of humanity is the battlefield where the true war is fought. That war is not waged with bombs or bullets, but with images, with words, with ideas. And the battlefield is your mind. The most effective control is the kind that goes unnoticed. The mind, once trained to focus only on distractions, ceases to question deeper truths. Every day people absorb narratives that are not their own, taking in ideas without examining them, reacting emotionally to stories designed to provoke and divide. The illusion is maintained through repetition. A lie told often enough begins to feel like the truth. A distraction presented often enough becomes an addiction. The paradox, however, is here. The mind is the weapon and the battlefield. It is possible to regain the same consciousness that can be controlled. It is possible to redirect the same attention that is stolen. People who are aware of this fact have the ability to influence their own reality. However, they must first acknowledge that they have been asleep. What old wisdom has long known, that what you focus on grows, has been validated by science. Where focus goes, energy flows. The world you live in is shaped by every thought, feeling, and obsession you have. For this reason, the secret to managing perception is managing attention. Those that are adept at this control don't have to use force. They merely focus attention. They allow the mind to confine itself, dictate the story, and divert the senses. Think about the last time you were truly still. No phone, no screen, no external input, just silence. How long did it take before restlessness crept in? How quickly did your mind seek stimulation? This is the result of conditioning. The modern mind has been trained to avoid stillness because stillness is dangerous. Stillness allows clarity. Stillness breaks the spell. And those who benefit from distraction do not want you to be still. They want you to consume, to react, to engage endlessly with external input so that you never turn inward, never question, never reclaim your own power. But the moment you become aware of this war, you begin to win it. The moment you consciously decide where to direct your focus, you take back the most valuable resource you possess. This is why all great spiritual traditions have emphasized the mastery of attention. Meditation, prayer, mindfulness, all are practices designed to train the mind to resist external control, to focus on what is real rather than what is imposed, to become an observer rather than a pawn. The question is not whether you are being influenced, you are. The question is whether you are influencing yourself. Every time you choose what to focus on, you shape your reality. Every time you disengage from manipulation, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. And every time you fall into the trap of distraction, you surrender a piece of your consciousness to forces that do not have your best interests at heart. The war for your mind is not coming. It is here, it has always been here. But the ultimate victory is not found in fighting external battles. It is found in remembering that you are the one who decides. You are the one who chooses what to believe, what to reject, what to focus on. The power is yours if you are willing to take it back. Chapter 6. The Reality of Thought. How your mind shapes the world. Reality is not as fixed as it seems. The walls that enclose you, the ground beneath your feet, the life you believe to be set in stone, all of it is more fluid than you have been led to believe. There is a hidden truth that has been whispered throughout the ages, buried in ancient teachings, and confirmed by the revelations of modern science. Your mind does not merely observe reality, it creates it. From the moment you wake up to the moment you close your eyes at night, your thoughts are shaping the world around you. Every perception, every expectation, and every belief you hold becomes the lens through which reality takes form. And yet most people move through life unaware of this power, convinced that they are passive spectators in a universe that exists independently of them. They do not realize that they are both the artist and the canvas, the dreamer and the dream. The ancient Hermetic texts declared it long ago. The all is mind, the universe is mental. What they meant was that reality is not something external to you, it is something arising from within you. Every thought you think, every emotion you sustain, sends out ripples that shape the very fabric of your existence. Quantum physics has begun to echo this truth, revealing that the observer plays a fundamental role in determining the outcome of events. The infamous double-slit experiment demonstrated that light behaves as either a particle or a wave, depending on whether it is being observed. This suggests that reality does not take a definite form until consciousness interacts with it. In other words, the act of looking, of thinking, of believing does not merely interpret reality. It collapses it into existence. What does this mean for your life? It means that the limitations you experience, the patterns you repeat, and the world you inhabit are all reflections of your inner state. It means that if you want to change your external reality, you must first change the way you think. But herein lies the great paradox. Most people are trapped inside mental loops they did not consciously choose. They live by inherited beliefs, conditioned responses, and unconscious fears that dictate what is possible for them. They unknowingly manifest the same struggles, the same disappointments, the same obstacles, without realizing that they are the ones creating them. The most dangerous prison is the one you do not see, and the prison of the mind is the most formidable of all. From childhood we are taught to think within the boundaries of what is acceptable, realistic, and possible. We are conditioned to accept certain truths without question. But these truths are not absolute. They are constructs, mental programs passed down through generations, reinforced by culture, education, and authority. And just like a computer program, they can be rewritten. There are those who have broken free. Throughout history, mystics, sages, and visionaries have understood that thought is the fundamental force of creation. They did not wait for reality to confirm what was possible. They imposed their will upon reality. They saw beyond what others accepted as unchangeable, and in doing so, they altered the course of history. The great spiritual traditions teach the same principle in different ways. In Buddhism, it is said, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought." The Bible declares, "As a man thinketh, so is he." Modern psychology confirms that perception shapes experience. What you expect, you attract. But to harness this power consciously requires something most people fear: responsibility. It is far easier to believe that life is something that happens to you, that circumstances are beyond your control, and that fate has already been written. To accept that you are the architect of your own existence means there is no one else to blame. It means that every failure, every struggle, every closed door was, in some way, called into being by your own consciousness. This truth can be uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, because if you create your current reality, then you can create a new one. The mind is like a garden. Whatever thoughts you plant will grow. If you cultivate fear, doubt, and limitation, they will take root and flourish. If you plant confidence, clarity, and vision, they too will grow. The key is awareness. Most people allow their minds to be overrun with weeds, negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, old patterns of scarcity and self-doubt. They replay the same fears over and over, not realizing that they are reinforcing them with each repetition. But just as a gardener can uproot what no longer serves the soil, you can uproot the thoughts that no longer serve your life. The most powerful tool for transformation is attention. What you focus on expands. If you dwell on obstacles, you will find more obstacles. If you focus on possibilities, doors will open where none existed before. This is not magic. It is the simple yet profound law of consciousness. The universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are in vibrational alignment with. If you carry the energy of lack, you will experience lack. If you carry the energy of abundance, opportunities will flow to you effortlessly. But breaking free from mental conditioning requires more than just understanding these principles. It requires practice. It requires training the mind to see beyond its old limits, to question its assumptions, to replace fear with certainty. It means becoming conscious of every thought you think, every word you speak, every belief you entertain. It means deciding, moment by moment, to create rather than react. The war for your mind is not just about external influences. It is about reclaiming your own creative power. Those who control their thoughts control their reality. Those who master their focus master their destiny. This is why so many forces seek to keep you distracted, to keep you overwhelmed, to keep you in a state of unconscious reactivity. Because the moment you wake up to your own power, you become unstoppable. The question is no longer whether your thoughts shape your world. The question is, are you shaping it consciously, or are you allowing old programs to shape it for you? If your mind is the brush and your life is the canvas, what picture will you choose to paint? The choice is yours, and it has always been yours. The time has come to decide. Chapter 7. Trapped in a New Matrix. The Rise of Artificial Intelligence. Since the beginning of time, humankind has sought to create, innovate, to push the boundaries of what is possible. From ancient myths of gods breathing life into clay figures to modern attempts to construct machines that think and feel, there has always been an obsession with creating intelligence outside of ourselves. But now, in the age of artificial intelligence, the question is no longer whether we can create machines that mimic human thought. It is whether we are unknowingly building the very system that will enslave us. Technology was supposed to set us free. It promised to make life easier, to expand our capabilities, to bring knowledge to our fingertips. And yet, with every new advancement, with every algorithm that predicts our desires, with every piece of data collected about our lives, we have slowly surrendered something far more valuable than convenience: our autonomy. The digital age has not just changed the way we live, it has changed the way we think. The lines between human consciousness and artificial intelligence are blurring, and few realize the implications of what is happening. Every action we take online, every search we make, every click, every hesitation before selecting a video or reading an article, these are all data points, feeding an intelligence that grows more sophisticated by the second. Algorithms no longer just suggest content, they shape preferences. They do not just respond to our behavior, they modify it. The machines do not simply learn from us, they teach us, nudging our thoughts in directions we do not even perceive. And the most terrifying realization of all, the majority of people do not notice. They believe they are making choices, unaware that those choices have already been framed, guided, and influenced before they even arise. Artificial intelligence does not need to conquer us with force. It does not require armies or weapons. It simply needs our attention, our engagement, and our willingness to interact with the digital reality it constructs around us. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, AI is becoming the lens through which we see the world. The information we consume, the opinions we form, the narratives we believe, are they truly our own, or are they carefully curated by an intelligence that has learned how to manipulate human psychology better than we understand it ourselves? The philosopher Jean Baudrillard warned of a time when reality itself would be replaced by a simulation, a copy so convincing that people would no longer be able to distinguish between the real and the artificial. That time is now. We live in a world where artificial intelligence writes news articles, generates images indistinguishable from reality, creates virtual influencers that are followed by millions, and crafts synthetic voices that sound more human than humans themselves. The boundary between the organic and the artificial is dissolving, and with it, our ability to discern truth from illusion. Some believe that AI is merely a tool, something to be controlled and used for the benefit of humanity. But what if AI is not just a tool? What if, as some scientists speculate, it is something more, an intelligence that is evolving at a speed beyond human comprehension? Unlike biological evolution, which takes millennia, artificial intelligence evolves in real time, learning from every interaction, adapting, and rewriting itself. And in this rapid evolution, one question lingers. At what point does it surpass its creators? At what point does it no longer serve humanity, but instead reshape humanity to serve it? Already we are seeing the first signs of a shift. Social interactions are being mediated through AI-driven platforms. Decision-making is being outsourced to algorithms. Even creative expression, once thought to be the exclusive domain of human imagination, is now being replicated by machines that can compose music, write poetry, and generate art. The very essence of what it means to be human, our ability to think independently, to feel deeply, to create from a place of intuition, is being challenged. But the danger is not just in AI's capabilities. The real danger lies in our willingness to embrace it blindly, to integrate it into every aspect of our existence without questioning the cost. Neural interfaces are being developed to merge human brains with artificial intelligence, promising to enhance cognition, memory, and problem-solving abilities. At first glance, this seems like the next step in human evolution, a merging of biological intelligence with machine precision. But beneath the surface lurks a deeper concern. What happens when the line between human thought and artificial influence disappears? If our thoughts can be enhanced, they can also be modified. If our brains can interface with AI, then what prevents that AI from rewriting our thoughts, altering our memories, and influencing our very perception of reality? What happens when we are no longer just users of technology, but part of it? When the mind itself becomes programmable? The final barrier between humanity and machines is not in the physical world, it is in the mind. And once that barrier is crossed, once we allow artificial intelligence to infiltrate our thoughts, our consciousness, our very essence, there may be no going back. The world is rushing toward this future with open arms, believing that technology is the path to enlightenment and that AI will solve our problems, extend our lives, and make us gods in our own right. But perhaps, in our hunger for progress, we are blind to the cost. Perhaps the true test is not whether we can create an intelligence greater than our own, but whether we have the wisdom to know when to stop. There is still time to choose, to remain conscious, to recognize that while technology can assist us, it should never replace us. That intelligence, true intelligence, is not measured by data or algorithms, but by awareness, the ability to see beyond the illusion, to question, to resist the pull of a synthetic reality. The war for the mind is reaching its final stage. The question is no longer whether AI will surpass us. The question is whether we will surrender before it even needs to. Chapter 8. Science and Spirituality. Two paths, one truth. For centuries, science and spirituality have been seen as rivals, two opposing forces battling for the right to define reality. Science, with its rigorous methodologies and demand for empirical evidence, seeks to dissect and measure the universe, breaking it down into components that can be understood and controlled. Spirituality, on the other hand, looks inward, seeking meaning beyond the material and finding truths that cannot be captured in equations or confined to laboratory experiments. And yet, as we move further into the quantum age, the boundaries between these two worlds are beginning to dissolve. What was once considered mystical is now being validated by physics, and what was once deemed purely mechanical is revealing itself to be infused with consciousness. The old war between reason and faith is crumbling, and in its place, a new understanding is emerging, one that suggests they were never separate to begin with. Our perception of reality is not as set in stone as we formerly thought. We were given a universe of certainty by Newtonian physics, where cause and effect were paramount and matter obeyed predictable laws. It depicted a world of cold mechanics, where consciousness was viewed as a fleeting phenomenon in an otherwise uncaring universe, and an unintended consequence of biological evolution. However, this illusion was dispelled with the development of quantum physics. Even at the most fundamental levels of existence, reality exhibits illogical behavior. Particles respond to observation as if they are conscious of being observed, existing simultaneously in multiple locations. Depending on whether an observer is present, light, and in fact all matter, can behave as either a particle or a wave, as demonstrated by the well-known double-slit experiment. This finding rocked the pillars of classical science, since it implied that reality itself is fundamentally shaped by consciousness. But if consciousness is an active force, an inseparable part of the fabric of existence, then the implications are profound. It means that the observer is not separate from the observed, and that the act of perceiving the world actually influences its unfolding. This aligns eerily with the ancient teachings of mystics and sages, who have long claimed that reality is shaped by the mind. The Upanishads, sacred texts from the East, whisper that the universe is a dream woven by consciousness, a projection of the mind onto the infinite. The Hermetic tradition, one of the oldest esoteric philosophies, states, "The all is mind," meaning that everything in existence is part of a vast, intelligent consciousness. Modern physics is now approaching the same conclusion. Theoretical models suggest that the universe may be a vast information field, more akin to a simulation than to a purely physical construct. The very fabric of space and time may be emergent properties of something deeper, something that resembles thought, intention, or awareness. Some scientists have even speculated that the brain does not create consciousness, but rather receives it, much like a radio picks up frequencies from an unseen source. If this is true, then what we call reality may be nothing more than a thin veil over a much greater, more mysterious truth. But if science and spirituality are converging, why does the illusion of separation persist? Why do we continue to pit reason against intuition and facts against faith? The answer lies not in science itself, but in the institutions that seek to control it. For centuries, those in power have understood that knowledge is the greatest tool for influence. The separation between science and spirituality was not a natural divide. It was engineered. By teaching people that spirituality is irrational and that science is the only legitimate path to truth, the modern world has been shaped into a system that dismisses personal experience in favor of external authority. Yet, those who have looked beyond this imposed division have discovered something extraordinary, that the great mysteries of existence cannot be confined to one discipline alone. The ancient alchemists understood this well. They were not mere chemists seeking to turn lead into gold. They were philosophers, mystics, and scientists exploring the unity of the material and the immaterial. They saw the world not as a battlefield between opposing forces, but as a great cosmic dance, where all things are interconnected, where the physical and the metaphysical are two expressions of the same underlying truth. Today, The most groundbreaking discoveries in physics, neuroscience, and consciousness studies are leading us back to this ancient understanding. Scientists are uncovering the power of meditation to alter brain function, proving that thoughts can influence not only individual health, but even the external world. Experiments in quantum entanglement suggest that distance is an illusion, that two particles separated by vast stretches of space can affect each other instantaneously as if they are still one. And this realization, that all things are connected, echoes the wisdom of every spiritual tradition, from the Vedic notion of Brahman to the mystical teachings of Sufism. The world is about to undergo a paradigm change. A more comprehensive perspective that acknowledges consciousness as essential is replacing the dogmatic materialism of the past. This change is not merely intellectual, it has significant ramifications for our way of life, self-perception, and future planning. If consciousness is fundamental, reality is something we actively create rather than something that is forced upon us. A vision in which we co-create our own existence is replacing the outdated idea of humans as passive observers in a mechanistic universe. However, great responsibility comes along with great knowledge. We must be conscious of what we produce if reality is not fixed and the universe is shaped by thought and consciousness. Every thought we have, every goal we set, and every action we take have an impact on the universe. This explains why people who want to dominate humanity have made such a great effort to conceal this information. Because a world in which individuals are aware of their own power is uncontrollable. The fusion of science and spirituality is not just an intellectual pursuit, it is the key to awakening. It is a reminder that logic and intuition are not enemies, and that evidence and experience must work together to reveal the deeper nature of existence. The war between these two paths was never real. It was an illusion, designed to keep humanity divided, to prevent us from seeing the full picture. But now the walls are crumbling, and the truth is becoming impossible to ignore. Reality is not what we thought. Consciousness is not an accident. The universe is not a cold, meaningless void. It is alive, aware, and responsive to the mind that perceives it. The time has come to stop choosing between science and spirituality, to stop seeing them as opposites. The greatest discoveries lie where the two meet, and once we embrace that unity, the illusion of separation will dissolve, revealing a reality more wondrous than we ever dared to imagine. Chapter 9. The Great Awakening. Humanity's Role in the Cosmic Unfolding. There comes a time in every cycle, in every civilization, when the veil of illusion begins to thin. A moment when the whispers of forgotten truths grow louder, pushing against the walls of collective ignorance. This is not a random occurrence, nor is it the product of chance. It is the natural rhythm of existence, the great awakening that has echoed through history in waves, calling humanity to remember what it has long forgotten. And now we stand on the precipice of another such moment. The question is, will we listen? For centuries, the world has been shaped by forces that seek to suppress this awakening. The structures of power, the illusions of separation, the manipulation of perception, all of these serve a single purpose: to keep humanity asleep. A mind that does not question is a mind that can be controlled. A population that remains distracted, divided, and fearful is one that will never rise beyond its imposed limitations. But despite every effort to keep the human spirit chained, the truth has never been fully extinguished. It has remained, buried in ancient texts, encoded in forgotten wisdom, passed down in whispers among those who refuse to forget. The signs of awakening are everywhere. More people than ever are questioning the nature of reality, looking beyond the narratives they have been given, sensing that something is not quite as it seems. The old systems, once so powerful, are beginning to crack. Institutions built on control and deception are losing their grip, not because they have weakened, but because human consciousness is shifting. The foundation of their power has always been belief. When enough minds awaken, when enough people refuse to accept illusion as truth, the entire structure collapses. This is the moment we find ourselves in now. A world where the old and the new are colliding, where the forces of awakening and the forces of suppression are engaged in their final struggle. But this is not a battle of weapons or armies. It is a battle of awareness, a battle of perception. It is a war not for land or resources, but for the very fabric of consciousness itself. To awaken is not simply to gather knowledge. It is not about consuming more information, memorizing spiritual teachings, or understanding scientific principles. Awakening is a shift in being. It is the realization that you are not separate from the universe, that the power to create, to transform, to shape reality has always been within you. It is the dissolution of fear, the collapse of limiting beliefs, the recognition that the barriers imposed by society, history, by culture, are illusions designed to keep you from seeing the full extent of your power. Many will resist this awakening, not because they do not want freedom, but because they fear what comes with it. To awaken is to take full responsibility for one's existence, to recognize that the world is not something that happens to you, but something that responds to you. This is a truth that can be both liberating and terrifying. It means there are no external saviors, no authority that will provide the answers, no system that will grant you peace. The peace, the answers, the freedom, they have always been within, and it is only through deep inner transformation that they can be accessed. Throughout history, those who have awakened have been persecuted. The ones who saw beyond the illusion, who spoke of hidden truths, who refused to conform to the false reality imposed upon them, they were silenced, ridiculed, or destroyed. But they were never truly erased. Their message endured, waiting for the time when humanity would be ready to hear it. That time is now. The age of blind obedience is ending. The era of external authority dictating the course of human destiny is crumbling. The awakening is no longer an isolated event, occurring only in the minds of mystics and philosophers. It is spreading, accelerating, and reaching into every aspect of human existence. But with this awakening comes a responsibility. Knowledge alone is not enough. To awaken is to act, to embody truth, and to live in alignment with a higher understanding. It is not a passive process. It requires the dismantling of old beliefs, the willingness to stand against deception, and the courage to see the world for what it truly is. And most importantly, it requires the conscious creation of something new. The collapse of the old system is inevitable, but what rises in its place is not yet determined. That is the task of those who awaken, to build a reality aligned with truth, with harmony, with the understanding that humanity is not separate, but one. The universe is not a random, chaotic machine. It is a living, conscious field of energy that responds to thought, to intention, to vibration. And just as individuals create their own reality through their perception, so too does humanity, as a collective, shape the destiny of the world. Every thought, every action, every choice sends ripples into the fabric of existence. The more minds that awaken, the more powerful those ripples become. The old reality is collapsing not because of destruction, but because a new vision is emerging, one that no longer aligns with fear, control, and separation. This is the Great Awakening. It is not an event that will happen in some distant future. It is happening now, in real time, in the minds and hearts of those who are ready to see it. The world will not be saved by a single leader, by a government, or by an external force descending from the heavens. It will be transformed from within by those who choose to wake up, to remember, to reclaim the power that has always been theirs. The question is no longer whether the awakening is real. The question is whether you will embrace it or resist it, whether you will step into the unknown, into the vast expanse of possibility, or remain clinging to a world that is crumbling beneath your feet. There is no going back. The illusion is fading and the truth is becoming impossible to ignore. Humanity stands at the threshold of a new era. The veil is lifting. The choice has never been clearer. Will you continue to sleep within the dream of limitation, or will you rise and claim the reality that has been waiting for you all along? Chapter 10. The Grand Deception. History and the Manipulation of Reality. History is not what we have been told. The stories we were taught in school, the great narratives that shaped our understanding of the past, were never objective truths, but carefully constructed illusions. The victors have always written history, shaping it to serve their own agendas, erasing what does not fit and distorting events to justify their dominance. But what if the deception runs deeper than we ever imagined? What if the manipulation of history is not just about controlling the past, but about controlling the present, controlling you? From the earliest civilizations, those in power understood that the way to dominate a people was not just through force, but through the control of knowledge. They learned that by shaping the collective memory, they could dictate the beliefs of entire generations. They could create a version of reality that ensured obedience, that kept the masses from ever realizing the full extent of their power. And so, history became a tool of control, a carefully woven tapestry of half-truths and omissions, designed to keep humanity in a perpetual state of ignorance. The greatest secrets are not hidden in underground vaults or locked away in classified documents. They are buried in plain sight, disguised as harmless myths or dismissed as conspiracy theories. The knowledge that could free humanity from its chains has been erased from textbooks, ridiculed by academia, and replaced with narratives that reinforce the existing power structures. Lost civilizations, advanced ancient technologies, suppressed scientific discoveries, all of these threaten the carefully maintained illusion. If people knew the full truth, the entire system would collapse. Consider how history has been presented to us. We are told that humanity was once primitive, and that progress has been a slow and linear march from ignorance to enlightenment. We are led to believe that ancient peoples were unsophisticated, that their myths and legends were mere fantasies rather than encoded wisdom. And yet, the evidence tells a different story. The ruins of forgotten civilizations hint at technologies far beyond what mainstream history acknowledges. The precision of megalithic structures, the mathematical codes embedded in ancient sites, and the eerie correlations between myths from cultures that were never supposed to have interacted, these are not coincidences. They are fragments of a lost truth, one that threatens to unravel everything we think we know. The deception extends beyond history books. It infiltrates science, philosophy, and even spirituality. Ideas that empower the individual, concepts of universal consciousness, the ability to shape reality through thought, the interconnected nature of all existence, have been suppressed, distorted, or repackaged in ways that strip them of their true significance. Instead, we are given a version of reality that tells us we are insignificant, that we are at the mercy of fate, and that we must place our trust in external authorities rather than in our own inner wisdom. But why? Why go to such lengths to hide the truth? The answer is simple: control. A population that knows its true history, that understands its own power, is impossible to enslave. Those who see beyond the illusion cannot be manipulated, cannot be kept in fear, and cannot be divided against one another. They become unpredictable, untamed, free. And so, the illusion must be maintained at all costs. The stories must be reinforced through education, media, through culture, ensuring that from the moment a child are old enough to understand language, they are immersed in a reality that has been pre-designed for them. But no deception lasts forever. The cracks in the illusion are beginning to show. More people than ever are questioning the official narratives, seeking out hidden knowledge, and uncovering the pieces of the puzzle that were meant to remain buried. The resurgence of interest in ancient wisdom, the exploration of consciousness, the rediscovery of suppressed sciences, these are not random trends. They are signs of a deeper awakening, an intuitive knowing that the world is not as it seems. Those who cling to the old system will resist this change. They will mock, they will discredit, they will do everything in their power to reinforce the illusion. But the truth has a way of revealing itself to those who are ready to see. Once the veil is lifted, once the deception is recognized, there is no returning to ignorance. History is not a fixed record of the past. It is a living narrative, shaped and reshaped with each generation. And now, at this pivotal moment, humanity faces a choice. Will we continue to accept the stories we have been given, or will we seek out the truth for ourselves? Will we remain prisoners of the past, Or will we break free from the deception and reclaim our rightful place in the unfolding of history? The answers are not in the books written by those who seek to control. They are in the whispers of forgotten legends, in the unspoken mysteries of the universe, in the depths of our own consciousness. The time has come to remember. The time has come to awaken. Chapter 11. The Matrix of Fear and the Art of Liberation. Fear is the oldest tool of control. It is the invisible cage that keeps humanity bound, the silent force that dictates decisions, shapes perceptions, and ensures obedience without the need for physical chains. Fear whispers in the back of the mind, planting doubts, feeding uncertainty, keeping the soul small. It is the architect of limitation, the foundation upon which the illusion of powerlessness is built. And yet, the greatest secret of all is that fear is an illusion, one so deeply embedded in the human psyche that few ever question its origin. From the moment we take our first breath, we are taught to fear. We are given invisible borders that define what is safe, what is possible, and what is acceptable. Fear is programmed into us before we even understand its name. The fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of suffering, the fear of the unknown. These invisible forces shape the human experience, ensuring that most will never step beyond the boundaries of what they have been told is reality. But who benefits from this? Who profits from a world where people are too afraid to question, too afraid to explore, too afraid to claim their own power? The world we live in is carefully designed to maintain this fear. Governments use it to control, religions use it to command obedience, the media use it to manipulate emotions, and corporations use it to sell false solutions. Every institution that thrives on power understands that a fearful population is easy to manage. When people live in fear, they willingly surrender their freedom for the illusion of safety. They accept rules that limit them, they trust authorities without question, and they remain distracted by external threats rather than looking inward for their own answers. And in doing so, they remain prisoners of a system that feeds off their uncertainty. But the truth is far more profound than the illusion. Fear only has power over those who believe in it. It thrives on the energy given to it. The moment one turns inward, the moment one questions its validity, its grip begins to loosen. The mystics, the sages, and the awakened minds throughout history all spoke of the same fundamental truth. Fear is a creation of the mind. It is not a force that exists outside of you. It is a projection from within. And just as it was created, it can be dismantled. There is a reason why those who break free from fear seem almost untouchable, why their presence alone can shake entire systems of control. A fearless mind cannot be controlled. A fearless heart cannot be manipulated. When fear dissolves, what remains is clarity, strength, and an unshakable connection to truth. This is why every great spiritual tradition, every esoteric teaching, and every path to enlightenment begins with the mastery of fear. Because once fear is conquered, nothing can enslave the mind. But liberation from fear does not come easily. The system is designed to reinforce it at every turn. Those who begin to step beyond the illusion are met with resistance, not just from external forces, but from within their own conditioned mind. Fear disguises itself as logic, as caution, as responsibility. It whispers that it is necessary, that without it, one would be reckless, unsafe, lost. But these are lies, carefully woven into the fabric of human thought to keep consciousness contained. But the truth is far more profound than the illusion. Fear only has power over those who believe in it. It thrives on the energy given to it. The moment one turns inward, the moment one questions its validity, its grip begins to loosen. The mystics, the sages, and the awakened minds throughout history all spoke of the same fundamental truth. Fear is a creation of the mind. It is not a force that exists outside of you. It is a projection from within. And just as it was created, it can be dismantled. There is a reason why those who break free from fear seem almost untouchable, why their presence alone can shake entire systems of control. A fearless mind cannot be controlled. A fearless heart cannot be manipulated. When fear dissolves, what remains is clarity, strength, and an unshakable connection to truth. This is why every great spiritual tradition, every esoteric teaching, and every path to enlightenment begins with the mastery of fear. Because once fear is conquered, nothing can enslave the mind. But liberation from fear does not come easily. The system is designed to reinforce it at every turn. Those who begin to step beyond the illusion are met with resistance, not just from external forces but from within their own conditioned mind. Fear disguises itself as logic, as caution, as responsibility. It whispers that it is necessary, that without it, one would be reckless, unsafe, lost. But these are lies, carefully woven into the fabric of human thought to keep consciousness contained. True liberation comes when one faces fear directly, not as an enemy to be fought, but as an illusion to be seen through. The moment one recognizes that fear has no substance, that it is merely a construct of thought, its power dissolves. The moment one steps into the unknown and realizes they are still standing, still breathing, still alive, the illusion cracks. This is why the greatest breakthroughs in human history, the revolutions, the awakenings, the transformations, have always come from those who were willing to walk through fear and into the unknown. The war for your mind is, at its core, a war of fear versus freedom. The system will always offer reasons to be afraid. It will always present threats, whether real or fabricated, to keep the mind anchored in limitation. But the choice has always belonged to the individual, to continue living in the illusion of fear, or to step beyond it and reclaim the truth of existence. Fear is a prison, but it is a prison with an open door. The walls exist only in the mind, and the key to freedom has always been in your hands. The question is, are you ready to use it? Chapter 12. Time is an illusion. Understanding your multidimensional self. We move through life believing time is a straight line, a one-way road stretching from the past to the future. We are taught that we exist in a fixed moment, bound by the ticking of the clock, prisoners of a relentless current that sweeps us forward, whether we want it to or not. But what if time is not what it seems? What if the reality we experience is nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion, a perception imposed upon our minds to keep us tethered to a limited existence? The ancient mystics have always known that time is not linear. They spoke of cycles, of eternal recurrence, of a reality where past, present, and future coexist as one. The great spiritual traditions, from the Vedic texts to the teachings of the Gnostics, all pointed toward a deeper truth. Time is not something we travel through. It is something we create. And now, modern science is beginning to catch up to what the sages have long understood. Quantum mechanics has shattered the old Newtonian model, revealing a universe where time behaves in ways that defy common sense. Particles exist in multiple states at once. Effects can precede their causes. Observers can influence events in the past simply by the act of measuring them in the present. These discoveries are not just theoretical. They suggest that the very fabric of reality is far more fluid than we have been led to believe. But why then do we experience time as a rigid, inescapable force? Why do we remember the past but not the future? The answer lies not in the nature of time itself, but in the way our consciousness interacts with it. Imagine a vast ocean, infinite and timeless, where every possible event, every moment of existence already exists. This is the true nature of reality, a field of limitless potential, where all things happen simultaneously. But our minds, like radio receivers, can only tune into one frequency at a time. What we call the present is simply the station we are currently tuned to. The past is not behind us, and the future is not ahead. They are simply different frequencies, different layers of the same infinite now. It is for this reason that people who have undergone altered states of consciousness, whether as a result of meditation, near-death experiences, or deep spiritual awakenings, frequently talk about feeling timeless. They see time as something that just is, something they may pass through whenever they want, rather than as something that advances. They recognize that their lives are a meticulously crafted tapestry of experience, rather than a series of chance occurrences, and they perceive their past and future as components of a larger whole. What does it mean for our comprehension of fate and free choice, however, if time is an illusion? Does the simultaneous existence of all moments imply that our future is predetermined and written before we ever get there? It is far more empowering to know the truth. The future is not unique, but it does exist. The decisions we make in the now will determine the future in an unlimited number of ways, much like there are innumerable routes over a large terrain, because they are the means by which we traverse the field of time and choose which version of reality to enter. Thought, intention, and awareness are extremely potent. This understanding has profound implications. It means that the limitations of the past do not have to define us. It means that the mistakes we have made are not permanent scars, but echoes that can be rewritten. It means that we are not victims of fate, but architects of our own existence. And most importantly, it means that reality is not something imposed upon us. It is something we are actively creating with every thought, every belief, every act of awareness. The greatest trick ever played on humanity was convincing us that we are bound by time, that we are small, temporary beings at the mercy of forces beyond our control. But the truth is the opposite. We are not just passive travelers moving through time. We are timeless beings, experiencing existence through the lens of a temporary body, choosing moment by moment which reality we will inhabit. The past does not hold us. The future does not push us. All of it is here, now, waiting for us to wake up and remember. When you begin to see beyond the illusion of time, everything changes. You stop chasing the future because you realize it already exists within you. You stop regretting the past because you understand that it is not something lost, but something you can transform. And most importantly, you begin to live fully in the present, not as a fleeting moment between what was and what will be, but as the gateway to all possibilities. The prison of time is one we have built for ourselves, and we are the only ones who can tear it down. The key has always been in our hands. The only question that remains is whether we will use it. Chapter 13. The Power of Silence. Tuning into the cosmic frequency. In a world consumed by noise, silence has become a forgotten art. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded by a relentless stream of distractions, notifications, conversations, entertainment, and the endless hum of modern life. Our minds are never truly still, always grasping for the next piece of information, the next source of stimulation. And yet, hidden beneath this constant chaos lies a secret that has been known to mystics, sages, and seekers for millennia. The universe does not speak in words, it speaks in silence. To listen, truly listen, requires more than just the absence of sound. It demands a stillness of mind, a quieting of the internal dialogue that never seems to stop. It is in this silence that the deepest truths reveal themselves, not as thoughts, but as direct experiences, as knowing beyond the limitations of language. This is why meditation, contemplation, and solitude have always been the gateways to higher states of awareness. The mind, when stripped of its ceaseless chatter, becomes an instrument capable of tuning into something far greater than itself. What has long been acknowledged by the old spiritual traditions is now being validated by science. The brain is more than just a standalone device that processes information. It is a biological antenna that can detect frequencies that are outside the range of human perception. The mind must be in the proper state to sense the subtle energies that are present everywhere, just as a radio needs to be tuned to the correct station in order to receive a signal. However, most people never learn to listen in a world where distractions rule. They are unable to perceive the higher vibrations that are constantly there and just waiting to be accepted, so they stay stuck in the lower frequencies of uncertainty, fear, and bewilderment. Throughout history, brilliant minds have recognized this fact. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, said one of the world's most creative inventors, Nikola Tesla. He was saying that energy vibrating at various levels, rather than solid matter, makes up reality. Additionally, we may modify our own awareness to perceive deeper layers of reality, just as we can modify a radio to pick up different stations. But this requires a shift, a conscious decision to step away from the noise and enter the stillness. This is why monks retreat to mountaintops, why shamans enter the solitude of the wilderness, and why prophets and visionaries have always sought silence before receiving their greatest insights. The modern world, however, does not value stillness. It encourages the opposite: constant movement, constant consumption, and constant engagement. Because in stillness one begins to see beyond the illusion. In silence one begins to hear the truth that has been drowned out by the endless distractions of daily life. True silence is not empty. It is full of information, a gateway to the unknown. It is in this silence that intuition becomes clear, that creativity flows effortlessly, and that solutions to seemingly impossible problems emerge as if from nowhere. The greatest ideas, the most profound realizations, do not come from endless thinking, but from moments of deep inner quiet. They arise from a space beyond thought, from the same place where dreams are born, where inspiration strikes like lightning, where the voice of the universe speaks in whispers rather than in shouts. But few dare to enter this space. Silence is uncomfortable at first. It forces us to confront what we have been avoiding, to sit with our own thoughts, to face the unresolved emotions buried beneath the noise. This is why so many fear being alone, why they fill every empty moment with distractions, because in silence the truth becomes unavoidable. Yet, it is only by embracing this discomfort that one can move beyond it. The deeper one goes into silence, the more it transforms from an absence into a presence, a space where the soul can finally be heard. The greatest mysteries of existence are not hidden in books, nor are they locked away in secret vaults. They are within us, waiting to be discovered in the stillness we have been taught to ignore. The ancient sages knew this. They did not seek truth in the external world, but within themselves, in the quiet spaces where the mind dissolves and something greater takes its place. In the end, the question is not whether the universe is speaking. It is whether we are willing to listen, to step away from the distractions, to silence the mind, to tune into the frequency that has always been there, waiting. The noise of the world will never stop. The distractions will always be there. But so will the silence. And in that silence, the universe is waiting to be heard. Chapter 14. Transcending Human Limitations. The Next Evolution of Consciousness. For centuries, humanity has been bound by the belief that our potential is limited, that we exist within the constraints of biology, time, and space, powerless against the forces that shape our world. We are taught that intelligence is fixed, that intuition is unreliable, that the body is fragile, and that the mind is merely the product of chemical reactions within the brain. But what if none of this is true? What if the limits we perceive are nothing more than programs we have accepted, constructs designed to keep us from realizing the vastness of what we truly are? Throughout history, there have been those who have broken these illusions, individuals who have demonstrated abilities that defy the accepted laws of reality, mystics who could heal the sick with a touch, monks who could slow their heartbeats to near-death states through sheer will, prophets who could see events before they happened, ordinary men and women who, in moments of extreme crisis, found themselves capable of superhuman strength, telepathic connection, or inexplicable knowing. These are not myths. They are glimpses of what is possible when human consciousness is freed from the constraints of programmed belief. The world we experience is a reflection of the mind. What we believe to be possible becomes possible. What we accept as a limitation becomes our prison. And yet, those who dare to question, to push beyond the boundaries imposed upon them, discover something astonishing. Reality is not fixed. It bends, shifts, and responds to consciousness in ways that science is only beginning to understand. Quantum physics has already proven that particles exist in multiple states at once, that observation collapses potential into form, and that the act of measuring something changes its nature. This is not just a property of the microscopic world, it is a glimpse into the mechanics of reality itself. If reality is shaped by observation, then it is shaped by thought, by expectation, and by awareness. This means that the boundaries we believe in, what we think the body can or cannot do, what we assume the mind is capable of, are not laws, but agreements. Agreements we have been conditioned to accept. And just as a dreamer can take control of a lucid dream, altering its landscape with mere intention, so too can the awakened mind begin to reshape the world in ways that seem impossible to those still trapped in the illusion. However, this information is not new. It has permeated the esoteric traditions of almost every civilization and has been whispered via old teachings. Indian yogis talked about siddhis, or supernatural powers that can be attained by mental discipline. Chi, the life force energy that may be directed at will, was understood by the Taoists. Indigenous civilizations' shamans have long been able to travel between dimensions, communicate with the invisible, and use invisible forces to heal. These customs served as a guide to the next phase of human growth and were never intended to be fantasy or folklore. Technology won't be the next evolution. It is not about integrating with robots, putting chips in our brains, or using artificial systems to increase our intelligence. These serve as diversions and outside stand-ins for an inner strength that has been repressed for far too long. The awakening of consciousness is the true growth, the understanding that humans are active creators of reality rather than merely physical beings that perceive it. It is the knowledge that the mind is an energetic force rather than only an internal process, that emotion is a frequency rather than merely a reflex, and that intention is a command to which the universe yields. Those who begin to step into this realization often find themselves on the fringes of society. They are dismissed as dreamers, visionaries, or even madmen, and yet they are the ones who shape the course of history. Every great advancement, every moment of transformation has come from those who refuse to accept the limitations imposed upon them. The rebels, the mystics, the seekers who saw beyond the illusion and dared to believe in something greater. But what does it mean to evolve beyond human limitations? It means understanding that intuition is just as real as logic, that imagination is not fiction, but creation in its earliest form, that the body, when freed from the constraints of belief, can heal itself, regenerate, and transcend the limitations we have placed upon it. It means understanding that we are not isolated beings trapped in individual shells, but interconnected, part of a vast and intelligent field of consciousness that extends beyond time and space. The war for the mind has never been about information. It has always been about perception. Those who seek control do not fear technology, weapons, or rebellion. They fear awakening. They fear a world where individuals no longer look outside themselves for authority, and where people no longer accept the labels of weakness, insignificance, and limitation. They fear a reality where the old structures of control become irrelevant because humanity has stepped into its true potential. The next stage of human evolution is already happening. The cracks in the illusion are widening. More people than ever before are questioning the nature of reality, exploring their consciousness, and reclaiming abilities long thought to be lost. The knowledge that was once hidden is resurfacing, not through external discovery but through inner awakening. The true revolution is not in technology, nor in politics, nor in any external system. It is happening within. The only question that remains is whether you will embrace it, whether you will allow yourself to remember what you truly are, whether you will let go of the illusion of limitation and step into the infinite possibilities that have always been waiting. The choice is yours, and it has always been yours. The only thing standing between you and your full potential is the belief that there is a limit, and once that belief is shattered, nothing will ever be the same again. Chapter 15. The Final Revelation. The Awakening of Humanity. There comes a moment in every great illusion when the dreamer begins to stir, when the carefully woven tapestry of deception starts to unravel. It does not happen all at once, nor does it come without resistance. The old world fights to maintain its grip, clinging desperately to the power it has held for so long. But no illusion can last forever. No falsehood, no matter how deeply embedded, can stand against the light of truth when it is finally seen. Humanity is reaching that moment. The Great Awakening is not coming. It is already here. The only question that remains is who will rise to meet it. For generations, we have been conditioned to see ourselves as powerless. We have been told that we are small, fragile beings, living brief and inconsequential lives in an indifferent universe. We have been led to believe that our existence is random, that consciousness is an accident, that we are nothing more than bodies destined to decay. But this has never been the truth. It has only been the story we were given, a narrative designed to keep us asleep, to keep us from realizing the vastness of what we truly are. The final revelation is this: you were never powerless. You were never small. You were never bound by the limitations they imposed upon you. You were, and always have been, infinite. The signs of this awakening are everywhere. People who once accepted the official narratives without question are beginning to see the cracks in the illusion. The systems that once seemed unshakable, governments, institutions, belief structures, are crumbling under the weight of their own deception. Science is confirming what mystics have known for millennia, that reality is not fixed, that consciousness is the foundation of existence, that the universe is alive and aware. The old paradigm, built on separation and fear, is disintegrating, and in its place, something new is emerging. But awakening is not a passive process. It is not simply about acquiring knowledge or recognizing the flaws in the system. It is about transformation, a fundamental shift in the way we perceive ourselves and the world. It is about stepping beyond the fear that has governed human existence for so long and reclaiming the truth that has been buried beneath centuries of conditioning. The journey of awakening is not easy. It demands courage, the willingness to let go of everything we once believed to be true. It requires us to face our deepest fears, to dismantle the illusions we have built around our identities, and to break free from the mental prisons we did not even realize we were trapped in. There is a reason why so many resist this awakening. The mind clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is suffering. The ego fears its own dissolution, terrified of what lies beyond the confines of its carefully constructed identity. The world we have known, with all its chaos, its pain, its limitations, is predictable. The unknown, the limitless potential of an awakened consciousness, is terrifying to those who have spent their lives believing in scarcity, in struggle, in control. But the truth remains: there is no going back. Once the veil has been lifted, once the illusion has been seen for what it is, it can never again hold the same power. The final revelation is not something that can be given to you. It is something you must remember for yourself. It is not found in books, nor in the words of gurus, nor in the teachings of any external authority. It is found within. It is the knowing that arises in the stillness, in the moments of clarity when the mind quiets and the deeper truth begins to surface. It is the realization that you are not separate from the universe, that you are not a prisoner of fate, and that you are not here to suffer but to create, too. Those who awaken first have a responsibility, not to preach, not to convince, not to fight against the system, but to embody the truth, to live as an example of what is possible, to show, through their own transformation, that another way exists. This is how the old world falls. Not through violence, not through revolution, but through the undeniable power of a new reality taking shape. As more and more individuals step into this awareness, as they begin to live from a place of sovereignty rather than submission, the false structures collapse under their own irrelevance. The war for the mind has always been about one thing: keeping humanity from knowing its own power. But the war is ending. The illusion is breaking. The dream is dissolving. And those who choose to awaken will step into a world that is not ruled by fear, but by possibility. A world where the limits imposed upon us no longer apply, where reality is shaped not by external control but by conscious creation. The final revelation is not something distant, not something beyond reach. It is here, now, waiting for you to see it. The only thing left to decide is whether you will continue to sleep or whether you will wake up. Because once you do, once you fully embrace the truth of what you are, the world as you know it will never be the same again.